Welcome back to Supernatural Eye. My name is Francesca Garcia. I will be your main host and lead investigator of this show. Today we'll be discussing about the old jail in St. Augustine, Florida. This is my pride and baby, my very first investigation, and what led me to become the paranormal investigator that I am today. We investigated this jail back in 2014. Our crew members or team members that joined me on this investigation that I had to drag on this show, funny thing, pretty much everybody else I had to beg and drag on this show, just so you guys know, will be Dan Ferrer, Ian Cosio, and Kaycee Johnson. Us four, we went together back in March during 2014 to St. Augustine and took down this jail, this infamous, well-known jail. Before we get to our narrative and what exactly occurred and what evidence did we capture, I want to begin first with the history of the old jail in St. Augustine, Florida. So the old jail was first constructed in 1891 and opened its doors to serve as a jail all the way until 1953. Back then it was known as the St. Johns County Jail. I believed it housed up to 72 inmates during its prime time. It looks like back in the days, Henry Flagler, which is a known historian for back in its days and founded the St. Augustine city as itself, funded the old jail and spent $10,000 to construct what the old jail is now to this day. Also, he looked at the Alcatraz prison doors and wanted to incorporate that system in the old jail. So a lot of that is very similar to the Alcatraz prison in San Francisco. So I thought that was pretty cool that, that was also, built as a structure for the old jail in, St. Augustine, Florida. It is known for its Victorian architecture. It is not just your ordinary looking jail. Flagler definitely wanted to keep the tourism alive and didn't want to scare it off, so he made sure that the jail looked nice and pretty from the outside. From what I've heard, or story tells, that I guess a lot of people back in those days thought that was a hotel and used to knock on the door as Sheriff Perry, which will be talked a lot in this episode. Open the door and literally slam the door on these people's faces, thinking, hey, this is definitely not a hotel, you're in for a rude awakening. And then they realize, holy crap, there's bars on the windows, this is an actual jail. So again, the look of this is not just your typical intimidating jail. It does look like some Victorian house from the 1900s. To give you a little bit of history, what I've read upon. So again, the prison housed about 72 inmates. It consisted of a 2-story north wing of a general population, maximum security, women's section, a lower level kitchen. They also had a section for death row, and it's crazy because just before their fate, in that little section where death row is at, you could see the gallows from the window as their view, just kind of waiting for their fate of what's going to happen. So just really, really crazy, inhumane punishment that Sheriff Perry did upon his inmates. In other words, but we'll get to those details here in a second of each facility. Sheriff Perry is the main sheriff of the old jail, or St. Johns County Jail. And also that was his living quarters. So once we get into the description of when we actually investigate, when you go inside, there's one section that's, I think it's on the right hand side, that's where his house is at, and then on the left hand side is where you get to the kitchen, the area, and then the prison. So it's very interesting how it's laid out from the inside. But just to give you a brief little background history on Sheriff Perry. He was a very, very, very tall guy, extremely tall. He was 6'2", and 350 pounds. So he was pretty big, in other words. Very, very intimidating, very big, and is known for his inhumane punishment to the inmates, some foul play, and also it looks like he violated and raped some of the females in the prison as well. We'll get to that in a second. One of his inhumane treatments, there was this bird cage set up outside, and how that works is that you put an inmate inside the bird cage. It doesn't matter the weather conditions, raining, thundering outside. You're just out there. You're hung up by a tree. They pull you up in a rope, and then you're like out there for hours, just hours and hours and hours. You pee, you poop in this little cage, and God forbid, lightning were struck in Florida or something crazy like that. But yes, that's just one inhumane. It's called the bird cage. And there's other little inhumane treatments that he has, like shackles, like all these different crazy methods. But he was known as a very intimidating and serious dude, and did not play around when it comes to his punishment. The jail is also known for poor sanitation, horrible smells. It's a very, very dark energy in there, in other words. Some of the examples of the poor sanitation that occurred at the old jail, literally there were no running plumbing or pipes going on. So if you had to use the bathroom, you are using a bucket, and you're sharing the bucket. So you're passing this bucket filled of feces and urine. Sorry, I didn't mean to tap my mic there. But anyways, you're filling this bucket up, and you're passing it along each inmate as you go. So that's literally your toilet of the experience. And the worst case scenario, the females had it worse. Like, they had to wait until they get past their last shares, and then they toss out this bucket out the window. It is very disgusting, but the woman's cell is on the first floor, so they pass around this bucket until it gets to the females, and then they toss it out from the first floor jail cell, whatever cell that is on the furthest left to where the window is at. That's where they have to dump it out. So obviously inside smelled horrible, and it's just poorly maintained, not enough maintenance to be clean around the jail cells. Obviously, to take a shower is another hassle as well. So just poor sanitation overall. Inmates were worked literally to all day outside in the hot sun. In Florida weather, minding you, it's very humid out and very, very hot. You're talking about like 90 degrees to 100-degree weather and humidity. So they were crammed into these small cells afterwards, but literally worked off all day and even if they were trying to pass out or they faint of whatever dehydration, they were whipped to get back up and to start working again. It's just nonstop, literally slavery work. Just horrible, horrible treatment that was going on at the jail cells at the time. In other words, you're pretty much worked like farm animals. From the day that you wake up, or from the morning that you wake up to the time you go back to bed, you are working nonstop. And you better be awake and alert, because if not, you will be punished in the worst way possible that you can imagine. Definitely crazy, just overall crazy. I think the most that you would last as an inmate at the old jail would be about 2 years. You're either dying from an infection, infection, violence, illness, malnutrition, or even possibly hanging. Now, the gallows is outside, and it's literally what you would think a gallows would look like. This little wooden plank area with the rope or the noose just hanging down the middle. There were 8 hangings during the old jail's time. And one of the hangings is named, or one of the infamous inmates that is known for the hangings back at its time, was named as Charlie Palo. He took someone's life. So I guess the Florida law at the time is you take one life in return for another. So obviously that's why he had to get hung at the gallows. Story goes that he was, I guess, fighting for his life. He got hung and his neck broke, but I guess he wasn't officially dead yet. Like, he was still breathing. So Sheriff Perry was not having it. And says, no, he needs to die. Like, he needs to die. So round 2, they put it back and snapped the neck again. And surely enough, round 2, he died. So he died in the worst inhumane way possible. I can only imagine just breaking your neck once and then doing it twice just because you have a little bit of some, breathing going on. That's just a very horrible way to die, and obviously that's a perfect recipe of why there's maybe trauma or haunting going on at the old jail. So that is the case of Charlie Plow. Palo, I meant to say. And definitely in one of the sections where death row is at, there's at the lower floors, there's this where you house pretty much the worst inmates. There's different sections. There's solitary confinement, death row, and maximum security. And what's crazy about death row is the way they have it set up is for the inmates that know that they're going to die, they put them in the death row section, and they just stack them up, and it's like this room, in other words, and they fill it up as many inmates as you can get them in there, just crammed up in this room. And their view outside the window is the gallows. So literally every morning they wake up until their death of time, they will be staring at their fate of death, which is hanging outside. So that was just Sheriff Perry's crazy mindset to show you how disturbed and crazy and dark he can be. There was solitary confinement as well. They can house inmates a day, even to a month, and it's dark. There's no windows. It's just, pitch black in there, and anybody could go insane. So again, just another part of Sheriff Perry's inhumane cruelty to these inmates. So that's just another section in that bottom part where they house the inmates. And then there's maximum security. It housed the worst inmates up to about 5 years in just this one room. Again, jam-packed with the poorest sanitation and worst inhumane treatment possible that you can think of. Fun fact that I want to share about Charlie Palo, that is the guy that got hung at the gallows, or one of the well-known cases about him having his neck broken twice. Pretty much the reason why he was arrested or was in jail or why he was hung was because, from my understanding, I think he killed his wife or something, and he slit her throat horribly. I forgot, like in the most cruelest way ever, and literally slashed her throat, and for that reason he was hung. So they say that his presence is known at the old jail, at least in that gallows area, and we'll discuss that further on some things that we've captured throughout our investigation. The other thing I did want to mention a little bit more details was on the ladies' jail section. This section also is known for its horrible sanitation, as we talked about earlier with the feces. They passed around this bucket, and then the ladies had the worst treatment overall. Anyways, inmates overall got treated horribly at the old jail. There was always discrimination amongst the inmates and how they got treated. Also, the females were just at the bottom list. Okay, so if you're in a minority, obviously you're going to get treated pretty bad, but if you're a female minority, you're like at the very low, below. There was 2 sections, and how it worked for females, there was the one where they discriminated again, so I assume that there's like one section where the bad minority groups are at, and then there's like the section of whatever they want to consider the good, but which is dumb. But anyways, so that's how discrimination occurred amongst the cells, and obviously the ones that got treated poorly had the worst inhumane treatment as far as sanitation or violence or being raped or whatever the case is. Cases go that females were sexually abused by not really the inmates, I would think. I think it was definitely more the sheriffs at the time. Particularly Sheriff Perry was known for this. If you were an inmate that didn't have a husband or a family or wasn't taken care of, and you're just forgotten, or you had a mental illness, or just people weren't looking after you, you were definitely a victim to being sexually molested and raped and taken advantage of. The females cooked at the time. Obviously, they didn't work outside in hard labor. However, they were known to clean and cook around the old jail. They cleaned for Sheriff Perry and his family, and also for the inmates as well. The inmates got your basic food. I think it was, I don't know what they ate. I think it was like some grits, or it was something very simple. I think it was grits. That's all they had was grits, or maybe it was beans. I think it was possibly beans too, actually, but something very simple and basic that they always had. And sometimes they didn't get food. So what they'll do if there's any animals that come in through the jail, like a rat or something, that's their food. That's what they capture. If you can capture something, that is your dinner for tonight. You got a good cooked meal, which is really disgusting, by the way. But that's how they survived, and that's what was the history and the system of the old jail. Now we're going to reflect back to the investigation, and now you know a little bit of the history and how the jail operated and the segments and the sections of the jail. We will now discuss what we've captured and our scenarios that are native of the investigation. So, anyways, getting to the investigation part, one thing I did mention in my introduction video is that I had to, beg my friends and persuade them to go on this trip with me, or to help me investigate. And the way to do that, or what we debated and deal with at the time, I had to go to some lame concert that Dan brought up. I think the guy was a DJ. His name was Savant. By the way, it was in Orlando, and it was awful. So blame Dan for that if you haven't heard of that artist. I'm sure he was good, but I definitely was not a big fan. But anyways, get back to the subject. That was my deal that we had to, for them to come with me to investigate. So we drove off. We went from Naples, Florida, which is to Orlando, about, 4-hour drive to pick up Kaycee. From there on, we picked her up. We went straight to St. Augustine, and that's about a good 6-hour drive. We checked into our hotel, and we had roughly about like 2 hours to get ready and start heading out to the location. And we did just as that. When we arrived, definitely one thing I did forget to mention in my introduction video, actually, let me take that back real quick. One thing I did forget to mention is that I am what you consider a highly intuitive empath. And for those that don't know what an empath is, the person that can detect, emotions and energies in not only with the living, but also with the dead, and also in a location. If you're in an environment, you feel like it's heavy, or if it's light, whatever the case is, you can pick up on that. So we are very highly intuitive to emotions and sensibilities. I wouldn't say I'm a psychic per se, but definitely I would consider myself an empath. Psychologists use empath as a person that has a great deal with empathy, or higher sensory perception, or whatever you want to consider it. So definitely we can just detect emotions. And again, not just with the living, we can also detect with the dead, and sense if there's certain sadness amongst the spirit or an entity that's in the environment that's present. Being an empath is definitely a blessing and a curse, I guess you could say. It's definitely a big attribute to my investigations. It helps a lot. I definitely detect if there's a presence there, but at the same time, I'm very sensitive that things can attach to me as well. So you have to be very careful and use the proper measurements to ward off spirits if they do cling on or get attached. In this investigation part, per se, nothing has attached to me, but we'll get further on to the other episodes of things that happened in the past. So that is a little bit of my background on being an empath. So anyways, as we approach the old jail, definitely I was very excited at first before even stepping in or even seeing the location itself. I was very excited, energetic, and I couldn't wait to start actually doing the investigation. I've always seen this on TV and always had an idea, like, I'm curious because I'm such a big horror fan and love, macabre things and just dark, whatever it is. Like, I just love all that stuff. Halloween, just all of it. Ghosts, spirits, anything. The only thing I do not mess with, by the way, you can put me in a setting with ghosts and demons or whatever the case is, but one thing I will not mess with is clowns. So just to throw that out there, I don't mess with clowns. I cannot stand clowns. Like, they freak me out. Clowns and cockroaches, which is horrible because sometimes you'll find cockroaches in haunted locations. Those are my worst fears. Other than that, I can deal with anything. But as I approached the location, it was definitely surreal, and the setting was very dark, and it was just, wow, I'm doing this. Like, this is very intimidating. Definitely not what you see in the photos or what was described as this Victorian, mansion style house. It was very, very intimidating. And it's not like that. It's like Universal Studios. They have all these lights or sound effects for a haunted house that you're going to walk in. No, it was surreal. You just feel like you're in the real deal. Like you're here and you're ready to do this. So I'm not going to lie, I didn't show my fear to the others, but I was very scared. And I was trying to kind of keep it, tame, but at the same time, I was kind of excited, or not kind of, actually, I was very excited, and I just wanted to start experiencing this and hoping that I could capture something. Definitely out of the group, between myself, Dan, Kaycee, and Ian, I would say Ian's probably the most scared. It was very hard for me to convince him to go on this trip. I think since Dan was on the trip, Dan's like the goofiest one, minding you, out of all of us. Kaycee is the more probably serious one that she was going to use. She's a psychology major too, and she was going to use her mindset to debunk certain things as well. But Ian, out of all of us, was definitely the most terrified, and you could tell for a second he did not even want to step into the building. So we kind of almost had to like push him in, but obviously it did not happen. He eventually went in, but you could tell like he was not having it. He was very quiet, and and I didn't want to show that I was scared, because obviously he would not go in at all. So that was that. So what they did at first, there was other group members obviously along. It was an investigation. I will describe, because sometimes as, a paranormal investigator starting off too, you have to be like legit or have certifications to kind of investigate a certain location, or put a deposit or money down just to kind of rent the location for the night. Just in case if you ever damaged something, that was your security deposit. So it all depends on where you locate your investigation and where you get permission from. But I will name if this is like a tour, a ghost tour, or paranormal investigation, but the St. Augustine Old Jail definitely was an investigation for us. The way they set it up, though, there were more people in the group, others that joined. Obviously, in my group, there were 4. And then what they did, let's say, I think there were like a group of us, maybe there were like 20 of us, I think at the time, I don't remember, but I think it was something amongst those, numbers. And they kind of gave us an education of like what we're going to get into, and then they provided us equipment. So again, this is my first investigation. I was just starting off. I haven't purchased my equipment yet, or started kind of investing in that, or having that mindset. Like I was just experiencing, this, adventure on my own to see if I liked it, and if I wanted to do this in the future, if it's something that I do want to pursue as a career, a passion, or whatever it is that I am today. But again, this is like my baby, my first investigation, me testing the waters of the paranormal field. So they provided us equipment, and the 3 equipments I can recall that we used frequently throughout this investigation, again, they were not my equipment. It was provided through the staff at the old jail. They already had infrared, camera lights on from their own setting. The one thing I did regret, I did ask the lady at the time to send me the footage of whatever. I'll get to that, and once we discuss this later on, when we're in, Sheriff Perry's office, and there's some orbs that were flying around. Kaycee and I were using our dowsing rods, and I don't know if she just forgot. It was a long time ago, and obviously it was never sent to me. So fortunately, I don't have that captured evidence or video footage. I do have some photos to show, and we'll get to that later on. But to get back on topic, the 3 equipment that they provided us was the temperature laser gun. So it pretty much detects, temperature ratings in the environment. You can point at one area, and then like the temperature, let's say it's 74 degrees, okay? And then you can point at another area and it's 83 degrees. Obviously there's significant temperature drop if you see the difference. So obviously that you're messing with something, but you obviously have to use your scientific research to debunk things. Hey, is there a cold draft? If there's an open window, whatever it is, okay? So that's just an example of what the temperature gun is. The other one is the SBS-7 spirit box. The spirit box is used through radio frequencies that it skips through, and you can pick up noise of what we believe is spirit voices. Obviously, we can determine the difference between radio interference compared to what is an actual spirit, but it just kind of sweeps through these radio frequencies, and that's what we believe we can pick up on actual, or what, spirits can manipulate this device to hear what they're saying, in other words. So we use that. It's called the SBS-7 spirit box. The other piece of equipment that we use is called an EMF. You probably heard it a lot throughout the ghost shows. An EMF is electromagnetic field detector. Geez, I can't even talk today. Sorry. Electromagnetic field detector. And obviously what that detect is electromagnetic energy. We believe ghost is made up of, energy balls of what we believe is electromagnetic energy, as you already know through science. There's geomagnetic energy, and then there's electromagnetic energy fields. And we believe, paranormal activity and spirits are made of electromagnetic energy. So again, EMF meters detect fields emitted by moving electrical charged objects. It's electromagnetic field theory that lies combination of electric field provided by electric charge objects. So again, this is what we believe spirits are made of. Obviously, you have to, if you capture something, you have a spike or whatever of milligauss or detection of your equipment, you're going to have to see how high it goes in the milligausses, and also you're going to have to see what's out there, if there's any electronics. Obviously your cell phones or something can be detecting or setting off these equipment, so you're going to have to use your science and your knowledge, not just assume, hey, this is a spirit, this is a ghost. Obviously, if there's nothing there, if there's no electronics, there's no equipment, then you are dealing with something serious. Now, the old school way of what an EMF used to be are what was called dowsing rods. And this was also used in the St. Augustine, or what they provided for us as well. Dowsing rods are another way to detect electromagnetic field or energies or the surrounding EMFs. So, and what that does actually, back in the days, they used to use it to detect water, because you can find water sources that way. And it's just two metal coil rods that you just kind of, just put together like this. You don't move your hands at all, and you just let it go. You literally just don't even, you just let it do its thing. Obviously, if they cross, you could say yes or no. Like they cross, sometimes they can spread wide apart. So it all depends. If you're perfectly still and there's not like a wind draft, or if you're outside, obviously if you're in a closed environment, then you're fine. But if you're outside, you're obviously dealing with some wind, so you're gonna have to watch out with stuff like that and kind of determine if the wind draft passed by or not. But it's better used inside, but indoors, I meant to say. But definitely back in the days, it was used to find water sources underground. So that is the old school version of what an EMF is nowadays. So we use a little bit of both. So that was what they provided for us at the old jail and what we used throughout our investigation. So anyways, after explaining our equipment and our devices, after giving us that knowledge and education on what we need to do with it, we then started venturing off to the old jail, and they gave us like a brief tour of the locations, once you go inside, like what each room meant, and obviously introducing us to the spirits that we might encounter later on. So a little bit of the history of what you found out already from the beginning of the segment is pretty much the description of the brief tour they gave us. Now, starting off first was at the gallows, and the gallows, from my understanding, there were 8 men in total that were hung during its time. And definitely one of the evidence we captured was at the gallows, and it's probably our most significant piece of evidence we have. I'll explain that in just one second, but pretty much they took us there, explained us. We took some photos. All of us were taking photos outside. And mind you, the other crew members were doing it as well before they separated us, because obviously we need to be separated. We all couldn't be in the same room because there'd be too much noise contamination. But first, we were outside of the gallows, so our crew went and started off that way. We took some pictures. I didn't capture the photo evidence. It was Kaycee Johnson that captured it, and she got 2 good photos of some, pretty much of a misty full body manifestation literally at the top of the gallows, whether if it was the sheriff or whether if it was an inmate ready to get hung. Definitely, I believe it was an inmate ready to get hung, and then there was one flying by, and then you'll see, as we will show right now, we will see the 3 pictures back to back. So you'll see the first one, there's nothing there. So go ahead and analyze it. Then you'll see the second one, the body is on the left hand side of the image. So I'll give you guys a couple of seconds to analyze that. And then you'll see the third image of the orb passing through the middle, where almost the noose is at. So I'll give you a minute to check that one out. And then going back to the photo of nothing being there. Again, I didn't capture these photos. I wish I did. It was a really good capture of Kaycee Johnson. So that is just one of the photo evidence that we captured throughout the old jail of the gallows. So definitely, if you go to St. Augustine, definitely take some photos. I suggest doing, obviously, stand in one area and take probably dozens of photos. I would say like 10 in a row if you can, and then start literally analyzing segments by segments, seeing if you see something that is the same pattern or if there's something out of place. And we'll get to the difference too of what people get confused with an actual orb compared to a dust particle. But once we get to that photo evidence capture, I'll kind of explain a little bit of that too. But in the meantime, this was a really cool capture of a full body manifestation. It's a little bit misty, but obviously you can tell it's a human being. You can tell by its torso, its headshot, and the way it's presented. Obviously in the first photo you don't see anything, but in this image you could see there's something there, and it wouldn't be a bug to create it. It wouldn't be anything. There was nothing absolutely there. So it's definitely something for you to think. You can tell me later on, or comment below what you believe it could be, if it's if it's paranormal, supernatural, or if it's not. But definitely that was a really cool capture that Kaycee Johnson caught on her camera. So again, the gallows was a very interesting place. Definitely felt some dark presence there, some dark energy. Definitely, it was surreal. It could be the entity of Charlie Palo that we've captured. I have no idea. Or it could be the other 7, inmates that got hung. But definitely I got the sensation that it was an inmate. But again, I could be wrong. Maybe it's nothing. But I believe it was something definitely captured. Tell me what you guys think. Also, what we did, so they put us in pretty much groups. One thing I did want to mention, I'm not one to really criticize anybody. I don't like to criticize if I know it's natural for human beings to do it, but honestly, it's not my thing to do, or forte, or whatever. But there is this interesting couple, I want to say. The girl was very outspoken. I don't know her name. I forgot the couple, but they seem nice, but they're a little like out there. I can tell that she was just following me. And she was like, can I tag along with you guys? And I didn't mind it. It was just like us already as 4. And I'm like, okay, I guess we can have an extra 2. So she tagged along in our group with her husband, I believe. And she's already like, oh, I got the best hotel here, and I got the view of a cemetery. Like, this is perfect and what I need. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Like, you like weird things like me, but I'm not all about bragging and all that, stuff, but whatever, that's fine. So we kind of just conversated in that sense, in that way. But anyway, I got a weird vibe from her because, again, I'm not a person that's like, oh, she's following me. This is weirding me out. But she was literally following me everywhere I went and just kind of telling me, oh, they like you. They're around you. They my equipment's picking up on them. So I'm already excited that I'm doing this, but I'm getting kind of hyped that she's hyping me up about this. But I'm just kind of this is weirding me out. And then later on, I will show you the group photo of all of us, because at the end we all took a group photo of the whole members that were there to investigate the old gym. Not only my crew, but obviously the other crew members as well. And our faces were all blurred out in this image, but again, we'll show it later on towards the end, and you could see what I'm talking about. She was a really creepy person. I don't know. There's just a weird, and I hate to say it, but there's some negativity in her that I sensed. And she was kind of weirding me out. I felt like I had to separate, and not only did I felt this way, the other members, in my group felt that way as well, and just thought she was really bizarre and just creepy, very creepy lady. So that was one thing I remember from that investigation, that sometimes you do meet interesting individuals, and just creepy. Anyways, moving on. We first walked into the facility, and on the right hand side you'll see is the sheriff's headquarters, his house. I think it's 2 stories. So downstairs it's the living room and office area. Upstairs on the left hand side, though, if you first walk in, obviously on the right hand side it's going to be his living room and office area. On the left hand side will be the kitchen area, and then we'll get to that later on, but we're just going to focus on the sheriff's house in the meantime, which is in the prison, but it's in a separate section. So you go up the stairs, and upstairs are the bedrooms. I believe he had a daughter, I want to say, and I know one of her bedrooms is, when you first walk in, it's on the right hand side, and then if you keep walking, it will be the sheriff's bedroom that he shared with his wife. Very interesting. I actually captured a really cool, distinct orb above the sheriff's bed. I'm going to have you guys take a look at it, so just go ahead and glance at it. I'll give you guys a couple of minutes to do so. So I literally took this shot. I just was taking multiple pictures, and this is what appeared that was, out of place or something that was different compared to the other photos. And definitely there is a difference what you can tell between a dust particle or an orb. There is a difference. A lot of people think that dust particles are orbs, that they capture something paranormal, which you have to really analyze it, because sometimes it could just be something like a light flare, or again a dust particle or a bug, whatever it is. The difference between an orb and a dust particle, an orb, it's going to be like the outer orb. It's like this kind of fiery looking edgy thing. I can't really describe it, but in the darker inner ring part, it's always very defined. So it's just very definitive. You can see the line. It's kind of hard to describe. Like the outer ring is just kind of like fiery, and then like the inner ring, it's just very defined. And the very inner, what I call the aura, that it should not be solid. If it's solid, obviously it's something you have to look into, but it should be kind of like mushy. I don't know how to describe it, but it's like a misty kind of thing. But it should never be like a complete solid color. That's for sure. Now, a dust particle seem to be like a particular color. Usually lens flares are like, red or yellow, so that's when you know that's a lens flare. But for sure, dust particles are definitely like one distinct kind of color. So that is the difference, and you could see in this orb, it's not really any of those colors that would, describe a dust particle, and you could see what I'm talking about. You could see the little fiery, like distinct inner ring. And then in the inner aura, I don't know if you could kind of zoom in on the orb. And I don't know, I can kind of tell there's a face, like a male figure face in that orb. And I believe, again, I could be wrong, but I believe it's Sheriff Perry. I think he was very there. His presence was very dominant. And I think he was there to show us, hey, I'm here watching you guys. Like, don't mess with my room. So I believe he was kind of following us everywhere we went. Like, I just got that sensation and feeling that he was following us. So tell me what you guys think about the orb. Definitely it was my first paranormal capture I've ever had, or whatever evidence I've ever captured in my life. So I was very proud at the moment when I captured the orb. I was very excited, and I shared it with the expert paranormal investigator at St. Augustine at the time, just to determine if this was an orb or a dust particle, just to be sure. Obviously, because again, this was my first time investigating. I have a lot of experience and knowledge in this subject, and she did confirm with me this is something interesting. Like, this is an orb, in other words. So tell me what you guys think about that. Moving on, in the living room office area, we used the dowsing rods, Kaycee and I, and we got some movement there. Not a whole lot. But again, from what I described earlier, I wish I captured the video that the woman said that there were orbs like flying around us when we were using the dowsing rods. I don't have that piece of footage. If you are looking at this, lady, I forgot your name, but if you're looking at this, please reach out, because I would love that footage I can share later on with the viewers. But in the meantime, this is what I have for evidence. So that was a cool experience. And again, I felt like we were being watched by Sheriff Perry. He had these piece of equipment that he used to torture inmates. It was like those medieval, what do you call it, that you chain around your ankles, and it was like a ball at the end. We did some temperature gun readings, and I think there was a slight temperature drop. I wouldn't say in the office it was, but other than that, that was our experience in the sheriff's house. All right, so moving on to the next location of the jail that we investigated, and bear with me, this was over 8 years ago, minding you, so I am trying my hardest to remember everything that I can think of. Obviously, the evidence that we captured, that was very distinct of memory of mine, that I recall the scenario and everything else. But Bear with me again. So as we're walking our way towards the house, we move on to the next section. So we're going towards the kitchen of what I mentioned earlier. The kitchen area, again, will be on the left-hand side. So if you're first walking into the house, let's say we start over, we're walking into the house again, it will be now on your left-hand side. Left-hand side, bear with me. The kitchen area is where the female inmates, again, cook, clean, all of that for Sheriff Perry and his family and the other inmates as well, and the other sheriff that helped out in the department at the time. Again, poor sanitation for the females. Discrimination, again, was brought up, and they were sexually abused and molested. So there was a case that we walked in, and we were in the jail cell. So they had like two cells, like pretty much. And I think they fitted about I think there were 6 female inmates. So obviously they separated them. So anybody that was in a minority group got separated to one cell, probably the worst cell, and the other ones, got separated to the other. And there was a case, I can't remember the female inmate that they discussed at the time, and it's horrible of me to say that. I want to say maybe it was Maria, maybe Marissa, something like, I know it started with an M. And the story goes is that she was raped by Sheriff Perry, and she had a baby, and she gave birth in her cell. And story goes is that they had to take the baby away from her, and obviously that was a sad case of mother losing her child, on top of that being in jail as it is. So she cries, weeps. People hear her crying and weeping at night. They feel that her presence is there, and on top of that, she does not like any males in her cell. I don't blame her at all. So you always have that one friend out of the group, that one friend that's got to ruin things. Not just joking, but you always have that one goofy friend out of the group, the skeptic, whatever you want to call it, that's always got to mess around and make the butt out of jokes and things. So that in our group, in this team member group, would have been Dan at the time. So Dan obviously was testing the waters, testing the limits, like he usually does. If you're watching this, Dan, it's true. And he went out there and pretty much went into the female cell when it was advised that males shouldn't really go in. Nothing really happened to him, but obviously he was just being goofy Dan. So we believe we picked up on the SBS 7 spirit box, like a weep or a yelp of a female. That was kind of creepy, but just to show you, that was one evidence capture. Obviously I don't have documentation of it because I don't have my video camera to be recording that. At the time, again, I was starting off. I was a newbie in the paranormal world, so I wish I had video evidence at the time, because that would have been really cool, but I can only tell you from what we experienced. So that was our experience at the female cell during that time. Now we work our way towards the males, or the men's cell, I meant to say. And that's where we've experienced more, I would say, paranormal activity. Nothing that I've captured on camera, but definitely we felt sensations and experience, and definitely captured a lot of activity on the SBS 7 spirit box. EMF was going off too as well, but definitely the SBS 7 spirit box was responding a lot. So the male or the men's cells, definitely there's 2 sections of it, so below and above. And there's a bunch of stairs. Now, normally the old jail during the day, it is a museum. It's a tour that you could go venture out, but they will not let you on the second floor. The cool thing about when we did our paranormal investigation, we had those rights that we can actually go up and investigate on the second floor of the cell. So that was really cool that we had that experience, or that access that others cannot have. So we were able to get more personal and get in there with the inmates, in other words. So that was really cool. Definitely what we captured on the SBS 7 spirit box. Well, before we get to that, Dan, let's talk about Dan again. Dan always likes to cause, a little trouble here and there. He said out loud, and I think he was just trying to test the waters again, pull my buttons, because he loves. I'm a little bit gullible sometimes. I'm not going to lie to you. So knowing that, he mentioned that, a ghost touched his private area. I will try not to say a lot of curse words on this show, but obviously he said that, yeah, a ghost touched his private area. Obviously, I was not taking him serious at the time, and I was really embarrassed because of the investigators that were professional there at the time, and you could tell that they were not having it, that they had this look on their face, and I was just like, oh my God, Dan, shut up, you know? But he's like, no, like a ghost really touched my, you know, wang area. So I kind of almost believed him because I'm like, no, but he's like, no, really, this happened. Later on, I found out, obviously, it was a joke, but I was definitely not happy at the time. So I don't know if that's what caused more activity, or maybe the inmates were, who knows, but definitely they were interacting with the SBS 7 spirit box. I recall that one of the questions I've asked myself, I asked them if they liked Sheriff Perry, and one of them literally said, I'm sorry, but yes, literally that's what they said. And I thought it was hysterical. Again, I wish I had my EVP or something, a video camera to record that, but I did not. So I can only tell you by experience, and who was there at the time that could, agree and confirm that information with me. But that was really cool. Some of them I asked, like, are you here? I'm here. Do you know you're dead? They say yes. So that was the activity we're getting on the SBS 7 spirit box. I think later on when I talked to Dan about if he really got touched there, he said it was a joke, but he did felt like something might have tapped his back, but maybe it could have been his head or whatever. Maybe he was just overthinking it, but he did felt like maybe he got like touched or saw something in the corner of his eye. I think Ian might have mentioned the same thing too. Not that he got touched, but he just felt something on the corner of his eye, like moving around when we're in the men's cells. So that was really cool. Definitely when you go up there, it's so small, the cells. Like, I forgot what the size was, but literally you can barely move. It's just extremely, I don't know how you can cram a bunch of prisoners. Again, there were 72 prisoners. I don't know how you can cram all of them in, like, not in one cell, but obviously like in those two sections that barely can fit just one even person there. It's like literally you have no room space between the bunks. It's so small. And I actually will show you some photos right now regarding that. So here are some images of the cells that are in there. The showers. It's definitely not a place you would want to be at. So you could see the inhumane treatment as it is in those cells. So just very interesting of what we captured inside the men cells. So definitely interesting. Last but not least, I don't remember at least what this section was really made for. It was kind of like a bell tower. So actually going back, leaving the kitchen area or the men's cells, you work your way to the women's, and then there's a kitchen, and there's like the main hallway headquarters area. So you go back up the stairs, and at the very, very, very top, it's like some bell tower of some sort. I forgot what was up there because it was kind of closed off, and I forgot what they told us at the time when they gave us the tour, what the history of that was or what that was used for. I don't know if it was like a storage area or just like another hidden kept space. They have like some mannequin that's hanging off a rope up there. So I'm going to show you those images right now. As you can see, obviously what's up there it's not paranormal. It is just a mannequin dressed up as an inmate. So again, I forgot what they mentioned, what that space was used for. If anybody from the old jail that works at the museum see this, obviously comment below and let me know exactly what that is. Again, this was over 8 years ago. But definitely we were taking some shots there, and you could see there was two mists that go by in those shots. So I'm going to show that to you here, and I'm going to show you the regular picture so you can see back to back. Every time you take photos and you capture orbs or whatever you feel like is paranormal, the best way to show evidence, if you capture photos, takes a bunch of snaps multiple times and compare and contrast. You could see the difference between what's out of place and what's not. So I'm going to show you that. So just take a look. And you can see on two of the photos the image of a white mist passing by. It would be very hard to say that's a dust particle because it definitely doesn't look like one, but also it wouldn't be a bug. it would be kind of too large for that to be a bug. So I'm not sure what type of bug that would be for it to take up that type of space. So I'm not saying that in other words, I'm not saying it's paranormal, but I'm just leaving it as unexplained. So tell me what you think about that. Definitely the most photos that we captured, or the hard proof of evidence I believe is evidence, is what I captured at the sheriff's bedroom, the orb. It's very distinct. This one's not so much, but again, it's a little mysterious. So obviously, you know, spirits and, ghosts, whatever you want to call it. I like to say spirits out of respect, but anyways, they can manifest as misty as well, or like a solid shape, kind of what was shown at the gallows. That was very cool because that actually looks like a human form. There's no way you can replicate that with a lens or a flare or whatever it is. Like, you can try as many times with flash, and I think we did try replicating that, as you could see with the other images. We've taken so many, but I'm not going to keep showing you all those. There's just no way you can replicate it. So it is mysterious. But for this one at the bell tower, I'm going to leave it unexplained. So again, tell me what you guys think about it. And that pretty much wraps up our investigation at the old jail and what we've captured. Tell me what you guys think about it. Definitely, it was such a fun experience. It was so surreal. It made me certain that I want to become the paranormal investigator that I am today. So definitely I take pride and joy, and I'm very happy to release my first investigation out to you guys, and tell me what you guys think. One thing I did want to mention, actually, before we wrap up this segment, or this episode, definitely the group photo that I promised you guys at the end with the creepy girl. And by the way, we eventually did end up leaving her. I think it was towards like when we went to the women's cell. But anyways, get back to the point. So we took this group photo because they told us at the end, okay, everybody gather up, closing time, gather up. So we all met up at the very first floor where the solitary confinement, death row cells. They're like 3 main cells at the bottom from what I recall. We all met there. That's why we took the photo. Now, definitely, in my opinion, the investigator at the time mentioned when she took our group photo that she tried taking several shots, and that was the clearest image that she can get of us, which was not very clear. I'm going to show it to you right now. Okay. So now that you've seen the image, obviously all our faces are distorted. But if you can only guess out of all our faces, which one's the one that's most distorted, and you can kind of put two together of which female I am talking about, that was really weirded me out in the investigation, and how I got extremely weird vibes from this female. I'm just going to leave you to the imagination of who you think it is. I'm not even going to say it on here out of respect, because again, I don't want to be that person to judge, but out of respect, I'm going to leave it to you guys to assume and guess who it is. So just look at all our faces and tell me which one's the most distorted and creepy one. Okay. Again, that pretty much is our conclusion of the old jail in St. Augustine, Florida. I hope you guys like this piece of episode and segment. Next episode, we will be discussing Key West, okay? Key West, I will not give you the location yet, but that will be our next episode. Stay tuned. Also, check out Dan's post interviews. He'll be doing a series of follow-up post interviews after this segment. So definitely stay tuned. Check that out. It will be very interesting who he will be following up with out of our team members. Will it be Dan Ferrer? Would it be Kaycee Johnson? Or will it be Ian Cosio? I guess just stay tuned and just kind of hang out here and double check who it may be. The other thing I also wanted to mention before I wrap this up, I want to give a special dedication. These episodes and season of Supernatural I definitely want to give a big special shout out. Definitely a dedication to both my grandmothers that passed away last year, and definitely Claudio Ferrer. Claudio Ferrer is actually Dan Ferrer's father. He's like a second father to me that also passed away last year, and he was so supportive of this project. Very, very supportive. Probably even more supportive than my own parents, but in other words, he pushed me to become where I'm at right now and to finish this. And one thing I promised him that I was going to finish it, which is what I'm doing. He always said, "Do your thing, screw what everybody thinks, just do what you love, pursue your passion, and I want to be the first one to view your content." Unfortunately, he's not alive to be here to view this, but definitely I want to give this special dedication to him, because this goes out to you, and I hope you're watching, and I hope you're proud of me. Also, my two grandmothers, I hope they're proud of me. I love them so much, and I miss them. I miss all of them. So I hope you guys are proud. So definitely rest in peace. And that wraps up our episode. So definitely thank you for watching. This is Supernatural Eye, episode 1, and stay tuned for the post follow-up interviews with Danny Zabaleta, and definitely stay tuned for episode 2. I'll be releasing the release date for episode 2 here shortly. Thank you so much, and thank you for watching. Have a good night.
All right, I'm here. Sorry.
All right, so it is our first time doing this, so we've had a few of the kind of technical difficulties setting up this whole interview process. But what I want to do is go with an introduction, and I think it's recording right now. Does it say it's being recorded on your end?
No, I can record it. Do you want me to?
I think I'm recording right now, actually. Yeah, I think I'm recording right now. So yeah, we'll start with the question. So just a quick introduction. So when Franny edits it, we can just start from this point forward.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, so welcome everybody. My name is Danny Zabaleta. I am the interviewer for Supernatural Eye. We'll be conducting this interview on behalf of Francesca Garcia's investigation. We've got Daniel Ferrer.
Yes.
In with us today. He was part of the investigation of you guys went to, where did you guys go?
I don't remember that. It was some jail. I forgot.
Okay, was it here in Florida?
Yeah, it was in St. Augustine.
In St. Augustine. All right, cool.
I can't remember the name of the jail.
Perfect. Yeah, so I wanted to get you on here and get your feedback as far as how the investigation went on your side and what you experienced. Please, I want you to share with us. Have you ever experienced anything paranormal ever in your life?
I have not, actually.
Okay. Was this your first experience joining a paranormal investigation?
Yes, it was my first and only experience so far.
Okay. So what was your first thought when you decided to join this investigation? Were you curious? Were you what was your first initial reaction?
Well, I was mainly just doing it because I was doing it for my friend Francesca, who's the creator of this, and so I was just doing it mainly just to support her and everything like that. But I mean, it was a interesting experience. It definitely was some weird vibes in there, and I mean, they took a lot of pictures, and we've seen a lot of orbs and things like that. It was you definitely got some like weird vibes in there. I mean, nothing crazy paranormal, I would say, happened, but definitely some like creepy vibes and things like that.
So did you could say, or could be considered to say, you felt there was a paranormal presence, perhaps?
Yes.
Okay. Now, going back to that day or that night that you were there, where would you highlight the scariest moment that you felt during that investigation?
I would say probably we went. It was a while back ago, so I can't remember everything, all the details. But I remember that there was these jail cells on the top floor, and I don't know. Whenever it was late at night too, so it gave it kind of like a little bit more creepy feeling.
Right.
But definitely, whenever you went inside the jail cells, you can definitely feel some like creepiness, a lot of creepiness going on.
So do you feel like it was a highlight of using these devices that Francesca brings into her investigations that pick up paranormal activity? If it wasn't for those devices, do you feel like you would have picked up on any other paranormal activity?
Yeah, I don't honestly, I don't even remember using too many devices when I was there or when we were doing anything. So I felt it without the devices. So
okay. And so tell me more about the start of the investigation, how that went about. What was you guys' first routine? What was that experience overall?
Um, I honestly can't remember too much about it. It was a while back ago, so I don't
Yeah.
remember all the details, to be honest with you. Um, I c- we it was kind of like a tour, so it wasn't. I wouldn't say it was a full on real investigation like
Right.
what Francesca usually does on her own. So it was more kind of like a touristy kind of thing. There was other people there and things like that. So it wasn't like super paranormal like investigating. I mean, we still did investigate and stuff like that, but I didn't feel like it was like we were actually like doing it on our own. I mean, you still got weird vibes, and we did break off from the group and everybody did do their own separate things and things like that, but it wasn't like, I feel like it wasn't like we were going by ourselves
Right.
and get it down and dirty by ourselves.
Right. But when you first initiated this investigation, were you open to the idea of opening up the idea to attract paranormal activity within this investigation, or were you close, saying you don't really believe in this idea of paranormal activity?
I think I was more on the I don't believe in the paranormal activity part, than actually trying to find activity and things like that. I was a little bit skeptical. I mean, I still am a little bit, not like crazy. I mean, I do believe in paranormal activity and things like that, but I don't feel like it's like as crazy as what people make it seem to be.
Right, right. So you feel at all, leaving that scene of the investigation, that you, two things: did you change your perspective on paranormal activity, and did you feel like anything might have, changed your mind?
Oh, I definitely had some change of minds, because we definitely, after we took a lot of pictures and there was a lot of like weird orbs and things like that. So I mean, I definitely did change my mind a bit to it. I mean, I see these guys on TV and things like that, and I feel like they're a little bit over dramatic with
Right.
their paranormal, but I do definitely believe a little bit more than what I did back in the day in paranormal activity.
Now, with your attitude, not being a believer, initiating this experience, do you feel that might have had a spark in you, maybe bothering the spirits who you saw after when you saw the pictures?
Can you repeat it? I'm sorry.
You
Repeat the question.
know, with the attitude as far as not being a believer in paranormal activity and going in this investigation, just to this as not a believer, do you feel like that condescending, kind of like the attitude of carelessness or not taking this seriously? Do you feel like that had it might have bothered some of the spirits that were there?
I gotcha. I I didn't feel like anybody was bothered. I mean, maybe it could have, but I didn't feel anything bothered by
Okay.
anything.
And now,
I mean, we weren't super disrespectful either. When I like with French, I always listen to it. Be respectful to the ghosts and things like that. And the tour guides were saying that too, so I was being respectful.
right, right. Now, coming up to the last questions, would you do an investigation in a different setting, perhaps, going with Francesca and along with her tools and her kits to pick up these spirits and these paranormal beings? Would you do this in a lone setting?
Would I do it by myself? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, or with Francesca, with
Uh, I
devices.
I probably wouldn't do any more investigations and things like that, just because I'm pretty busy with my own life and
Right.
things like that. But if I probably had more free time, then I probably would.
Okay. Okay.
I
Well,
mean, as you can hear, I have a raptor in the back.
no, I totally hear you.
Yeah.
No, that's amazing that you got to experience this, and it might have, changed your original perspective of how, something you probably didn't really believe too much in, but you got to see the pictures of these paranormal beings being present in these pictures with these orbs that you mentioned.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear the. Can we pause it for 1 second?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, man. My daughter's freaking out.
You good.
Yeah, hold on. Just give me 1 second here. Juliet, what's going on? What's the matter? Okay, come here. I'm back. Sorry.
No, you're good. Yeah, so no, that's amazing that you had the opportunity to experience these investigations with Francesca, and it might have. Would you say it changed your perspective on the paranormal activity?
I think it did to an extent. I don't think it did majorly, but to an extent it did. Yes.
Okay, that's exciting though. Well, I think that wraps up the interview. I'm gonna go ahead and pause it over here on my end. Any other feedback you want to leave for the audience?
No, I'm good. I mean, I'm just excited for Francesca to get her stuff going along, and I know she'll be super successful. And I just wish her and you the best for everything you guys do.
Perfect. Thanks so much for joining us, Daniel.
Yeah, thanks, man. You have a great night.
Perfect.
See you, man.
Hey, brother. Welcome, everybody. My name is Danny Zabaleta. I am your interviewer here in Francesca Garcia's Supernatural Eye. I've got here with us Ian. He was part of the investigation conducted 8 years ago over at San Augustine's old jail. We'll go through a series of questions to understand more about that investigation and how it went down. I'm really curious to find out your experience, personal experience, and how you're moving forward with all this situation that occurred. So let's get started. How are you doing today?
Good, man. Just hanging out, having a good day right now.
Good stuff. Understanding this was 8 years ago. Please share with our audience, what was your first initial reaction when Francesca asked you to join her in this investigation?
Oh yeah, everyone knows that I hate horror films whatsoever, and being in a real life like ghost investigation, that was wild.
Really?
Like, yeah, like come on now, like if I'm scared of horror movies, why would I go to a ghost investigation? There's no way.
So it's fair to say you were definitely not a skeptic when it comes to paranormal activity, right?
Yeah. I wasn't really too much. I mean, like being a little religious, I did, like I do like think about like those spirits and like, like what roams around after the after
life. So it is something that you do believe in and you do have respect for.
Yes, definitely. But still, I'm big skeptic, still like before this event happened.
So before this event happened, before the investigation took place, you believed in paranormal activity, but you still were not convinced.
Yes, 100%.
So walk with us, if you can remember, or share with us the experience from the start. How was it once you came into the room, came into the setting of the jail? Share with us that experience.
Okay. Well, like you walk in. It's a night investigation. Probably like 9 o'clock after that. But there's this eerie Florida St. Augustine feeling with these like creeper trees like all around, and you see this old school hanging platform. Like you never see that like in modern day. It's just something you see out of the movies. Like there's probably 100 people that got hung over in this platform. Wow. It's one of the oldest jails, like it said. So I mean the architecture, you could tell was all stone, cobblestone everywhere, and I mean, it was just wild at night, man. It was not something that you'd want to do.
Right.
Like,
That's
like if you're a noob.
yeah, no. So do you feel like having being accompanied by Francesca and Daniel, did that make you feel more scared or more comforted, more secure in a sense that you're going to be with people, especially Francesca, who understands this more in depth?
Yeah. Okay. Well, having Dan over there, it was a little bit like it lightened up the mood, but we all knew that we were going to do an investigation. So
Right.
once we hopped on there and we started asking those questions in those rooms, it was you started feeling the temperature dropping a little bit. It might have been just like like the clapping effect. Everyone claps, you're clapping with them, but like.
Right.
As soon as you walk in the dark room and you start asking the questions and the instruments are out, there's some serious stuff going on at the same
Now,
time.
with being accompanied by Dan, since he was lighting up the mood, making things more lax, do you feel that may have had an effect on any of the spirits that were present during that investigation? Do you think it might have ticked them off in a sense?
I think it probably would have, honestly. When you got a loud guy in a place that you probably died in, I would imagine so. Like,
Right.
probably, but I mean, to lighten up like a group in an investigation, I think that kind of like relax
It
the
helped
whole
you like,
investigation. Yeah, definitely. Especially when it comes to me, I'm not walking in there first. We can let Francesca or Dan walk in there first, but I'm not walking in there first. And
so share with us what was the scariest moment you felt during that investigation, or something that made of not necessarily made you scared, but something that stood out to you, that you said, "Wow, either I'm a believer now, or this is going to convince me to believe that there's something here that it probably needs further investigation."
there was a instance where we were in the second floor, and one of the guides told us that the this one particular cell was for Maria. She had like a baby and she died within the cell, and Franny just started asking these questions inside the jail cell, like like yes or no questions. And we had one instrument that was playing some type of sound, and all of a sudden there was just this weird, like like it was like a slight no or a slight yes, like it
Wow.
was kind of freaky, but
And
that was probably the worst it was really at that time.
would you feel that this probably convinced you that there is actually some paranormal presence in this jail?
100%. Yeah. If it's the oldest jail cell, I don't really see why not. Why wouldn't be? Me personally, I definitely felt something,
Right, right. And leaving that situation of the investigation, do you feel that there could be a possibility that any of those spirits, was there ever a concern that any of these spirits were present, could go get attached to you?
Speaking with that question, I don't know too much about that. I would guess not. I wouldn't see why a ghost would travel with a person when they could be in their final resting area.
Right, right.
There's no way that, like, yeah, I don't see it happening. That's
And
all.
and throughout this investigation, did you ever feel welcomed, or did you ever feel like you were stepping in their own home, or not welcomed, or you were being a disturbance?
Walking in, uh, I did not feel welcomed in that situation, honestly.
It was an uneasy environment, you would say?
Yeah, the environment was dark. It was muggy. Like it's one of those buildings that you probably shouldn't be in, like at night.
Did you, and I know you mentioned you are a religious person. Did you before walking into the setting, did you say a prayer before?
No, definitely not. I just walked in there, just balls to the walls, buddy.
Now, how haunted would you say this experience was, from a paranormal standpoint, from 1 through 5, would you say there was actual presence there, and you are now convinced, and it could be potentially require further investigation to pick up more paranormal activity? But from 1 through 5, how haunted do you think the jail was?
I give it like a 3.5, somewhere around there.
Okay. And now I understand you guys went here as a group setting with a tour guide throughout this jail. Do you feel that having his presence there as a tour guide and being accompanied by Dan and Francesca made it more easy? And would you do this by yourself? And you think if you do this by yourself, would that have different effects?
Definitely, if you do it by yourself. If you do it by yourself, I think you're going to get in your feels with it. The group setting gives you a new point of view. You could be super like like into this type of like field, but like you definitely need a new point of view. There's no way you could just do this alone and feel super comfortable about a situation like that.
And do you recall Sherry Perry?
No, I don't actually.
Okay. All right. Now, so I know you mentioned that Francesca used a device to pick up the paranormal sounds. Did she use any other devices?
Oh yeah, she had the thermal GoPro that she was walking around with, and then she had it was in the water magnets. I think that was really it. I think it was just the thermal GoPro was the only thing that she was using, and then the guy gave a little bit more.
Okay, and after
but that they were a little bit primitive. Yeah.
Yeah, and after reviewing all the footage, once Francesca showed you towards the end or after the investigation concluded, how did that make you feel?
I'm probably not going to do that again.
Okay, you will not. Are you convinced that it's something you don't want to put yourself through because it is something that is there? There are presence there.
Definitely, it's one of those like respect things. You don't want to disturb the spirits too much. Yeah, you can see what they were like, but to go in there and use instruments is
right. You're invading their space in a sense.
Excuse me?
It's like you're invading their space in a sense.
Yeah. Just in my personal belief, I feel like that. But if like Francesca does it and she wants to investigate like a little bit more into the character of what's going on in that specific location, I'm all for it, honestly, because like maybe she can find answers that like the present investigators before they died couldn't find out.
Right. Well, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for jumping on this interview. And I think this concludes the first interview.
Hell yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate you coming on.
Hey, good stuff, Danny.
Take care.
Thank you, Francesca. Woo!
Take care, brother.
Hey.
Awesome.